Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. And today we'll be basically finding the value for the Gaussian integral, but this time using Fourier transforms. So let's get to it. So our problem is basically the Gaussian integral. So let's have a letter G that defines the complete Gaussian integral, in the sense that we have the integral from negative infinity to infinity of e raised to negative x squared dx. And now notice, unlike my previous videos, the Gaussian integral was basically from 0 to infinity. This time I'm choosing to take the complete Gaussian integral from a negative infinity to positive infinity. And as I said at the start of the video, we are going to be using Fourier transforms to find the value of this Gaussian integral. So let's do this on a fresh page where I'll briefly discuss what Fourier transforms are. So see you there. So the basic principle of, first let's talk about Fourier series, and then we can extend our flow of thought to Fourier transforms. So the basic principle behind a Fourier series is, if you have a function of x, f of x, on some interval, you can specify the interval. You can just customize your interval. Let our interval be negative pi to pi, both included. So you can express any function of x over an interval, in this case it's negative pi to pi, as a0 over 2 plus sum from n equals 1 to infinity of a sub n times the cosine of nx plus b sub n times the sine of nx. So what this mathematical statement is saying, basically, that if you have a function of x on some defined interval, you can express that as an infinite series of sines and cosines with varying coefficients. A_n and B_n are basically subject to changes in n. So for n equals 1, a sub 1 will have some defined value, and for n equals to a sub 2 will have another value. So you can express any function of x as some linear combination of cosines and sines over an interval. So that's basically your Fourier series. But now notice that one limitation of the Fourier series is, since we are taking the sum from n equals 1 to infinity, we only have discrete values of n that we can actually sum over. So n has to be only 1, 2, 3 and any positive integer until infinity. So you can't have half, or say 7 by 3, or some fraction between the integers. You only have these positive integer discrete values that you can sum over. So one way to kind of overcome this limitation, we defined the continuous version of the Fourier series, and we call it the Fourier transform. So again, if you have some function of x, let's say it's f of x, you integrate that from negative infinity to positive infinity. So f of x, you integrate that multiplied by e to the negative I kx dx, and whatever you obtain is the Fourier transform of x. So notice that there's this hat to indicate the Fourier transform, just like we had the fancy L for the Laplace transform. And this Fourier transform, since we initially started with a function of x, we'll end up with a function of k. So it will be a different function and it will be a function of k. So let's call that g of k. So, and we also have the factor of 1 over square root of 2 pi, which is sort of a normalization factor here. So we have 1 over square root of 2 pi factor in front of this, which is, as I said, a sort of normalization factor. So that's basically how we define our Fourier transform. So how are we going to use this to actually solve our problem? We're going to have to be really inventive and clever about this thing. So now we need to have a function of x that we are taking the Fourier transform of. So let f of x in our case be the integrand of the Gaussian integral, e raised to negative x squared. So when we find the Fourier transform of that, so Fourier transform of x, of f of x, is 1 over square root of 2 pi times the integral from negative infinity to infinity of e raised to negative x squared times e raised to negative I kx integrated with respect to x. So now notice that by the rules of exponents, we have 1 over square root of 2 pi times the integral from negative infinity to infinity of e raised to minus, we can take as a common, and then we add the powers, x squared plus I kx dx. Now if I didn't know any better, I would say that we will just increase the complexity of our integral, but don't worry, because we can write this as, well, the Fourier transform of f of x is 1 over square root of 2 pi times the integral from negative infinity to infinity. Now I would like to complete the square here. So let's complete the square here separately. We have x squared plus I kx, fine. So we can write this as x plus half of this term, half of basically ik over 2 squared. So when we square this, we have x squared plus 2 times ik over 2 times x, that will be, so let's first write this properly. There will be another factor actually to compensate for a constant that we get, so let's find that out. So we have x squared plus 2 times ik over 2 times x plus this thing squared, so ik over 2, the whole thing squared. The 2's are cancelling out. We have x squared plus ikx. I squared is negative 1, so we have negative k squared over 4. So now for this thing and this thing to be equal, we need to add a certain factor of k squared over 4, so that when you square this, you get negative k squared over 4. That gets cancelled with this k squared over 4, because we want to have this term in the end, right? That's why we introduce this factor by the end. So now notice that we are doing all of this in the power. So e raised to negative is a constant. and we have this factor, so x plus ik over 2 squared plus k squared over 4, and we have a dx naturally. So this can be written as 1 over square root of 2 pi times integral from negative infinity to infinity of, well, using the properties of exponents, we can write this as e raised to negative x plus ik over 2 squared times e raised to negative k squared over 4 dx. So now notice that this becomes 1 over square root of 2 pi times integral from negative infinity to positive infinity of, well, e raised to negative k squared by 4 is a function of k, it's not even a function of x. So we can take that outside the integral. We have e raised to negative k squared by 4, and we have e raised to negative x plus ik over 2, the whole thing squared, dx. Now notice that this has a very similar form to our original Gaussian integral. So let's make a quick substitution. Let's let y equals whatever was inside the square, so x plus ik over 2. So dy is nothing but dx plus the derivative of ik over 2 is going to be 0 because it's a constant with respect to x. So we finally obtain e raised to negative k squared over 4 divided by square root of 2 pi times, now the lower bound is going to be the same because you add something to a very small number, it's still going to be a very small number. Upper bound is still infinity because you add something to infinity, it's still going to be infinity. E raised to negative, now this is going to be y squared and dy. And now by the properties of definite integration, it doesn't matter what variable you have inside the integrand, as long as you have the same upper and lower bounds and the same structure of the integrand, it's still the same integral. So you can just interchange the variables if you want. So you'll have e raised to negative k squared per 4 divided by square root of 2 pi times integral from negative infinity to infinity of e raised to negative x squared dx. And now notice that this is nothing but the Gaussian integral, right? This integral is nothing but the Gaussian integral. So we have e raised to negative k squared over 4 divided by square root of 2 pi times the Gaussian integral. But what is all of this equal to? All of this is just equal to the Fourier transform of f of x. So this is the Fourier transform of f of x, and since g can be treated to be a constant and 1 over square root of 2 pi is a constant, this indeed, as I said, is going to be a function of g of k. Let's call it g of k, and indeed it is, because g and square root of 2 pi are constant. So indeed this is a function of k. Nice. We successfully calculated our Fourier transform of our selected f of x. Let's proceed ahead now. So now there is something called Parseval's theorem for our Fourier series. So for our discrete Fourier series, we had expressed f of x as a naught over 2 plus sum from n equals 1 to infinity of, say, a sub n times cosine of nx plus b sub n times the sine of nx under a common summation. And this was when f of x was on the interval of negative pi to positive pi. So by the Parseval's theorem now, so by Parseval's theorem, 1 over pi times integral from negative pi to positive pi of f of x, the whole thing squared dx, is nothing but a naught squared by 2 plus sum from n equals 1 to infinity of a sub n squared plus b sub n squared. So that's basically Parseval's theorem on your discrete Fourier series. But for our continuous version of Fourier series, that, you know, the continuous version is not limited to having discrete values of n which are positive integers. Our x extends from negative infinity to positive infinity, and it takes all values in between. It takes all real values, fractions, irrationals, all real values in between. But this is defined as our original function f of x squared dx is equal to integral from negative infinity to positive infinity of g of k squared dk, and notice that g of k is nothing but your Fourier transform of f of x. So this is a direct relation that you have between the original function and the Fourier transform of the function. And you can call this Parseval's theorem, but it's more like a special case of Parseval's theorem. That's why it has another name. It's called Plancherel's theorem. You can still call it Parseval's theorem, but if you want to give it another name, you can say it's the Plancherel's theorem, because Parseval's theorem is on discrete values. Continuous values are basically special cases of them. So this is a Plancherel's theorem, or maybe you can call it Parseval's theorem. So we're going to use this now because we know what's g of k. We just calculated that. So now we calculated that our g of k, or the Fourier transform of f of x, is going to be e raised to negative k squared by 4 times g over the square root of 2 pi. And I would like to restate Parseval's theorem. Integral from negative infinity to infinity of f of x, the whole thing squared, dx, is equal to integral from negative infinity to infinity of g of k, but the whole thing squared, dk. So we know f of x was the integrand for the Gaussian integral, e raised to negative x squared. So we'll have integral from negative infinity to positive infinity of e raised to negative x squared, but squared, dx, and we have integral from negative infinity to positive infinity of what's g of k. We just wrote that here. So it's this thing. So we have e raised to negative k squared by 4 times g, which is the Gaussian integral itself, over square root of 2 pi, the whole thing squared, dk. So we have integral from negative infinity to positive infinity. When you square this by properties of exponents, we get e raised to negative 2x squared dx, and over here we get integral from negative infinity to positive infinity of, so we'll have e raised to negative 2k squared by 4, or e raised to negative k squared by 2, and g squared and square root of 2 pi squared is just 2 pi, and we have the decay. So we'll have integral from negative infinity to positive infinity of, we can write this as e raised to negative square root of 2x but the whole thing squared, because square root of 2 squared is 2, dx is equal to g squared, and 2 pi are constants, we can take them out of the integral. We have g squared over 2 pi times integral from negative infinity to positive infinity of e raised to negative, let's write this as k over root 2, the whole thing squared, because that will be k squared over 2 like we had before, dk. So I'd like to make substitutions on both sides. So I would let let's say b equals square root of 2x, so that db is square root of 2 dx, and on this side I would like to say a equals k over square root of 2, so dA is going to be dk over square root of 2. So in all we have integral from upper and lower bounds remain the same, negative infinity to infinity. That's the best part of such improper integrals, that making linear substitutions doesn't change the upper and lower bounds. So we have e raised to negative b squared, and dx is db over root 2, so db over root 2, and on this side we have g squared over 2 pi times, again upper and lower bounds remain same, negative infinity to infinity of e raised to negative a squared, dk is nothing but root 2 dA. So now notice that if we take the square root of 2 outside, this is just the Gaussian integral, and this, ignoring the square root of 2, is also the Gaussian integral. So we have the Gaussian integral over square root of 2 equals Gaussian integral divided by 2 pi times square root of 2 times the Gaussian integral. So now notice that these will cancel out, giving us g squared equals, we'll have 2 pi going on the numerator, so 2 pi over square root of 2 times the square root of 2. This is 2 pi over square root of 2 squared is 2, 2's will cancel out, equals pi, but notice now that's just g squared, so the Gaussian integral is nothing but the square root of pi. And this makes perfect sense because we had our integral defined from negative infinity to positive infinity of e raised to negative x squared dx. So the complete Gaussian integral is square root of pi. What we calculated in the previous two videos was half of the Gaussian integral. So we had square root of pi over 2. So square root of pi, incidentally, I'll make a correction now. For the last two videos I've been stating the wrong value, is actually 1.707, about 1.707. But okay, fine, this is one way of finding the value of the Gaussian integral, but even while using Fourier transforms, there is a simpler and quicker method that doesn't involve Parseval's theorem and complexities. So I would like to just quickly discuss that. So after calculating the Fourier transform of f of x, which could be expressed as g of k, we got e raised to negative k square by 4 times g divided by square root of 2 pi, and unlike with the inverse Laplace transform, we indeed have a formula for the inverse Fourier transform. So recall that the Fourier transform g of k or f of x hat was integral from 1 over square root of 2 pi times integral from negative infinity to infinity of f of x times e raised to negative I kx dx, right? And so if you are inverting the Fourier transform, basically the inverse Fourier transform of g of k now will just be f of x. So notice that before we inputted a function of x and we got a function of k, for the inverse Fourier transform, we are going to input a function of k and we are going to get back a function of x. So since g of k is the Fourier transform of f of x, so the inverse Fourier transform of g of k will again be f of x, right? So inverse Fourier transform of g of k will be 1 over square root of 2 pi, they have identical formulas, times integral from negative infinity to positive infinity, this time g of k, but multiplied with e raised to ikx instead of a negative ikx dk this time. This will be a function of x, f of x. And the negatives and positives of the exponential make sense because if you multiply them together, you'll have e raised to 0, which is 1. So they'll sort of reverse the effects of each other. So that's your formula for your inverse Fourier transform. So let's calculate the inverse Fourier transform of our g of k. We have that over here on top. So since we're inverting g of k, we obtain an f of x is nothing but 1 over square root of 2 pi times integral from negative infinity to positive infinity of what's g of k? It's just this expression, e raised to negative k squared by 4 times g divided by square root of 2 pi times e raised to ikx dk. Now just making a quick substitution here, we let w equals k over 2 because this was k squared by 4 is k over 2 the whole thing squared, right? So we have w equals k over 2. So dw is nothing but dk over 2. So we have f of x equals square root of 2 pi getting multiplied with each other. We'll have 1 over 2 pi. Gaussian integral is a constant. We take it out. So g over 2 pi times integral, upper and lower bounds are the same, negative infinity to infinity of e raised to negative w squared times e raised to I, but k is 2w, so 2i wx, and instead of dk we have 2 dw, so 2 dw, remember that the 2's will cancel out. This can be written as g over pi times integral from negative infinity to infinity of e raised to negative, using properties of exponents, w squared minus 2iwx dw. So completing the square here again, we have w and we have to divide the second term by 2 and square it. So if you divide that by 2, we have ix, and also remove a w because it anyways get included during the square. So we have negative ix squared So w squared minus 2i wx plus ix, the whole thing squared. So I squared is -1, so negative x squared. So to equal this term, we have to add x squared to this expression. So w minus ix squared plus x squared is nothing but w squared minus 2iwx. And 2iwx is basically what we have inside the negative here. So our f of x now becomes g over pi times integral from negative infinity to positive infinity of e raised to negative w minus ix, the whole thing squared, and negative x squared dw. And like before, we have g over pi times integral from negative infinity to infinity of, we can separate this x, we can write it as a multiplicative factor, is negative w minus ix squared times e raised to negative x squared dw. So f of x is nothing but, now notice that e raised to negative x squared is a constant with respect to w, right? There is no x's in the w, so we have g times e raised to negative x squared divided by pi times the integral from negative infinity to infinity of e raised to negative w minus ix whole thing squared dw. Let's make a last substitution now. So let s equals w minus ix. So ds is dw because differentiating x will just be 0. And again the upper and lower bounds don't change. So g times e raised to negative x squared by pi times the integral from negative infinity to positive infinity of e raised to negative s squared ds. And now notice that this again is your Gaussian integral. So we have g times this g times e raised to negative x squared by pi, which becomes g squared e raised to negative x squared by pi, and that's supposed to be your f of x. But now the great fact is we actually know the value of f of x. What's f of x? Well, if we revert back to what we started with in the Fourier series, what we considered to be f of x, we considered the integrand of the Gaussian integral e raised to negative x squared to be f of x. So let's just plug that in over here. So e raised to negative x squared is nothing but this junk, g squared times e raised to negative x squared by pi. Now notice that these two terms will cancel out nicely. So we have on cross multiplication g squared equals pi, and g, taking the square root on both sides, is square root of pi. And this makes sense because g was our complete Gaussian integral this time. Integral from negative infinity to positive infinity of e raised to negative x squared dx, and that just equated to square root of pi. So that's a shorter way of doing Gaussian integral with Fourier transform. We don't need to go through Poincarél's theorem for this. We just invert the Fourier transform and equate that to our original function f of x. So for conclusion, we had a complete Gaussian integral this time, g, negative integral from negative infinity to positive infinity of e raised to negative x squared dx, and we used basically two sub methods inside the method of using Fourier transforms to get a value of square root of pi, which is about 1.707, not 0.707 like I stated in my previous videos. And now because of the symmetry, this is symmetric about the y-axis, so whatever you have from 0 to infinity is basically half of this. So whatever you have from 0 to infinity of e raised to negative x squared dx is just half of g, so g over 2. That's why we get square root of pi over 2, like we did in our previous two videos. So I hope you really enjoyed this video, guys. Please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Recommend me to your friends. Please, I need to grow, guys. You can follow me on Instagram, gamma_digamma. And have a great day. Stay safe. Peace out.